Good morning, children. Right. Continuation of ratio and proportions. See, yesterday we discussed about what are ratios. Now we are going to discuss about proportion. And under proportion, we have to discuss about direct proportion and inverse proportion. So, two things we are going to discuss now. Okay. So, what do you mean by proportion? See, suppose if you have a picture like this. Okay, so where this is of 2 units and this is of 3 units. Now if I ask you to enlarge the picture, what you will do? You have to enlarge in both directions, is it not? So if you are enlarging it by 3 times, even this should be enlarged by 3 times, then only you will get an absolute perfect picture similar to the given one, is it not? So that means here, suppose if this has become 4, the 2 4s are, then they should become 3 2s are 6. Then we call that one 2 is to 3 is similar to 4 is to 6, is it not? If you simplify also, you will get the same thing. 2 2s are 2 3s are 2 is to 3, 2 is to 3. Clear? So therefore, what is happening? In which ratio the length and breadth of this particular rectangle are there? In the same ratio, the length and breadth of the enlarged rectangle should also be in the same ratio. So how do we call it as? We call it as in direct proportion. How do we express it as? See, we can express it as mathematically as 2 is to 3 is as 4 is to 6. In which ratio the first thing is there, in a similar ratio, even the second object will be there. So this is the meaning. First I am only giving you the meaning of it. Okay, so now when you have a small rectangle, if you want to enlarge, you have to enlarge on both sides in the same ratio. You can't change the ratio here. So therefore we say that it is similar to that. It is as. How the relationship between the length and breadth here is there, in a similar manner the other one also will have. This is the meaning of it. Okay, so how we have to write it mathematically. So now let us see how to write mathematically. Suppose A is to B is the ratio of the given one particular relationship, and you have the other one C is to D. Suppose if these two are related, similar to each other or directly proportional, we write it as A is to B is as, we call it as is as C is to D. A is to B is as C is to D. Now understanding this one, right, let us understand this one. We'll write it here as A by B, is it not? A by B, which is equal to C by D, is it not? Because A is to B means A by B, C is to D means C by D. So A by B is equal to C by D. This is what we have already proved here also. That 2 is to 3 is as 4 is to 6. After simplification, 4 is to 6 turns out to be 2 is to 3. So that means this ratio is equal to this ratio. That means ratio of A to B is equal to ratio of C to D. Right? So this is how. And understanding this one, usually we call these as means and these two are called as extremes. So usually we will simplify it as by taking product of means. Product of means and product of extremes. These two are equal. Product of extremes. These two are equal. See, now let us see. B into C is equal to A into D. So product of means is equal to product of extremes. Is it not? So now let us see what we understood is correct or not. Now see, cross multiplication. A into D is equal to B into C. Is it not? So what we understood is absolutely right. What we understood is absolutely right. So therefore, whenever a direct proportion or a proportion is given to us, it is very easy for us to find out the unknown quantities or ratio of unknown quantities. Okay. So this is how we have it in case of direct proportion. Suppose if you ever see something like inverse proportion means that means if one increases, see here what is happening. If length is increasing, the length of the other one is also increasing. If breadth is increasing, here the breadth of the other one is also increasing. Inverse proportion means it is something like decreasing. That means it will be inversely related to each other. So suppose that if A is to B, right, is as, if C and D are direct proportions, if C and D are in direct proportion with A is to B, then suppose they are in direct proportion. In inverse proportion, you will be writing it as D is to C. D is to C. Or suppose if they give it as C is to D as inverse proportion, you will write it as direct proportion as A is to B is as D is to C. That means you are going to invert these two things. Suppose if it is the inverse proportion here, in direct proportion you are going to take the reciprocal of these two and you are going to write it. And the rest of things is same thing. Product of means is equal to product of extremes. There is no difference in this. Okay, children. So this is how we have to do inverse proportion, and this is how we have to do direct proportion. And now coming to the compound ratio, the next one which is there included in this particular year in your syllabus is compound ratio. That means it is something like a proportional relation is given to you. That is A is to B is as E is to B. How to express this whole thing as single ratio. That means you have two ratios here, is it not? A by B and C by D. Here the concept is how to express the whole thing as a single ratio. So here we call these two things. That means the numerators of the two ratios together, right? Is it not? We will write it as A by B here, C by D here. That means these two form the numerators of two ratios. Is it not? So these two numerators we call as antecedents. We call them as antecedents. And the denominators we call as consequence. And here to write the compound ratio, what do you have? Product of antecedents divided by product of consequence gives you the compound ratio. Product of antecedents divided by product of consequence. Means numerator's product you are taking in the numerator place. Denominator's product you are taking in the denominator place. So therefore AC by BD is what we call as compound ratio. AC by BD we call it as compound ratio, and that is AC is to BD. That is again AC is to BD, is it not? AC is to BD. So this is how we will write the compound ratio. Is that clear? So now when you compare both, what is happening? Here you are finding the unknown value here. This is a proportionate ratio. And you are writing product of means is equal to product of extremes. This is different. Extremes are different. Means are different. And here what you are taking is the numerator values as antecedents. Denominator values are consequence. Product of antecedents divided by product of consequence gives you the compound ratio. This is again a ratio. Which is a compound ratio of the proportion whichever is given to us. Okay, suppose if it is inverse ratio, what you are going to do here? Suppose if it is given to be like C and D are in inversely, that means A is to B is in inverse ratio with C is to D or D is to C, whatever it is, right? So then you will write it as A is to B is as D is to C D is to C. Since it is inverse, you are going to take the reciprocal of the second ratio and substitute in the proportion formula. And afterwards, process is the same. Okay, afterwards the process is going to be the same. If the compound ratio is asked, what is the compound ratio here? So these two form the antecedents, these two form the consequences. Right, consequence. So therefore, product of antecedents by product of consequence gives you the compound ratio. So in case of inverse ratio, what do you have? AD by BC is compound ratio. This is compound ratio. Okay, children. Right. If you have any doubts, please pause the video here. Move back. Listen to the whole thing again. And pause wherever you have a doubt. Take your own examples. Substitute in the formula. And check how you are able to get the answers. Okay. So right now, pause the video. Take the screenshot. so that you can copy second part, compound ratio. Now third part, inverse compound ratio. Okay. Now let me take an example here. That is from exercise 5.1. See children, for ratio, compound ratio and proportion and inverse proportion, based on all this, in this particular exercise you have 10 problems. First 10 problems fall under the syllabus which we are going to cover today, or what we have covered till today. So therefore I am going to solve 3 problems out of the exercise, and the remaining problems you have to solve and post me the solutions. Okay. So now here the second one. If the compound ratio of 5:8 and 3:7 is 45:x, find the value of x. So how to solve it? What is given? Given that these two are compounded. 5:8 is as 3:7. Right, this is given. Right, now what is the compound ratio from this? Compound ratio is equal to, what is the compound ratio? Right, here you have the product of whatever are there in the numerator place, we'll put it in the numerator place. That is 5 into 3. I am writing all the steps. Right, by divided by denominator values, 8 into 7. So that is 15 divided by 56. So we have compound ratio to be equal to 15 by 56. Very direct, isn't it? Very direct. But what is given in the problem? But this fellow, he says that the compound ratio is 45:x. But he is saying it is 45:x. So what we can do? We have to now check how to convert this particular compound ratio into this form. So, but given compound ratio is equal to 45/x. So therefore, right, writing the equivalent value is not equivalent values. Right, so here we have 15 multiplied by 3 gives you 45. So 15 into 3. So obviously 56 into 3. So this is going to be equal to 45/x. To convert our numerator value 15 into 45, we have to multiply, is it not? So that means when can we equate this to this? When you can convert the numerator into 45. When you are converting the numerator by multiplying with 3, you have to convert the denominator also by multiplying with 3. So this is how you got the thing. So from here what we will get? 45 is getting cancelled. Now x is equal to 56 into 3. So 3 6 are 18, 3 5 are 15, 168. So what is the value of x here? 168. Suppose if it is not given as 45/x, directly what is the compound ratio? This is the compound ratio. There itself you can stop the problem. Here itself you can stop the problem. But he is saying that this is in this form. So you have to convert this ratio into this form. How can we convert? When you compare the numerators, you can see that this is 15, this is 45. That means you will get here as 15 into 3. You are writing the equivalent values, 15 into 3. Right, that is equal to 45. Now when you are multiplying the numerator with 3, you have to multiply the denominator also with 3. So 56 into 3 is equal to 45/x. Now our job is to find out x value. So cancelling these two, we will get x is equal to 168. Clear children? Yes. So take the screenshot, pause the video, copy the problem. Try to understand what we did in every step. So now next, let us move to the next problem. Now the compound ratio of 3:4 And the inverse ratio of 4 is to 5 is 45 is to x. Find x. Now what is given here? Compound ratio of 3 is to 4. Okay, 3 is to 4. And the inverse ratio of 4 is to 5. Here it is given as inverse ratio. So is as. You have to take the reciprocal of it. Reciprocal of it. 5 is to 4. So this is what which is given to us. Right? Compound ratio is. This whole thing is here. He is saying that the compound ratio is 45 is to x. This is given. This is given. But from here, what does it imply? So you have these two, product of these two, that is 15 divided by 4 fours are 16 is the actual compound ratio. Is it not? The actual compound ratio is 15 by 16. But what is given? 45 by x. Now we are going to make these two equal. How are we going to make these two equal? You have to multiply 15 with 3, then only you will get the numerator value to be equal to 45. When you are multiplying this 115 with 3, you have to write this also. 16 into 3 is equal to 45 by x. Okay, so 45 will get cancelled. So therefore x is equal to 3 16s are 48. 3 16s are 48. Right children, is that clear? So pause the video for a moment and then copy it down. So I'll tell you one more direct and very simple method. Okay, so here I am going very traditionally. Like suppose when can we equate these two? That means when you convert this into this, in figures you can feel that yes, 15 into 3 45. So therefore my comparison is correct and I am able to do it. But here you can also do it like this. You can, because he says that that is the compound ratio, is it not? But whatever compound ratio we have determined it to be 15 by 16, which is equal to 45 by x. What is harm? He is only saying, no, this is compound ratio. So you equate this compound ratio to the whatever you have determined. Now see the magic. 15, how many times it goes here? 3 times. Now cross multiplication. 1 into x. X is equal to 16 into 3. 16 into 3. So directly 48. So see, it is very simple. This method is very simple. Directly you can equate whatever you are getting the compound ratio from the given value, and whatever he gives as a compound ratio, equate directly and then simplify. You will get directly the simplest answer. This is very traditional way of doing it. Not necessary. It is not necessary always. You can also do it like this. Okay children. So pause the video and copy it down. Now children, next problem. So problem number 5 from the same exercise. So this problem is based on proportion. It is not based on compound ratio. Okay. So in a primary school, there shall be 3 teachers to 60 students. So what is the rule? For every 60 students, you should have 3 teachers. 3 teachers, 60 students. Now if there are 400 students enrolled in the school, so how many joined in the school? 400 students joined in the school. How many teachers should be there in the school in the same ratio? So satisfying the same condition as if this kind, that is for every 60 students there should be 3 teachers with the same concept, like with the same ratio. So how many teachers should be there, should be recruited in the school in order to teach 400 students. Children, if the problem is given like this, in the previous problems directly you only said this particular ratio is in compound with the other ratio. But here our job is to see which one we have to take into ratios first of all. So most of you are doing it. Even in the previous class, whatever the work I gave, You have taken the ratios in a different order. See, I said already ratio is the one which is with the comparison with the same kind of quantity, same kind. That means if teachers are compared, teachers should be compared with the teachers only. Students should be compared with the students only. You can't compare teachers and students here. Right? You can't compare teachers and students here. So, what is that you have to do is here is simplest thing is write like this as a tabular form. Teachers, students. Okay. So, how many teachers are there in the first case? 3 teachers. How many students? 60 students. What is the second case? Do you know the teachers? No. X. How many students are there? Yes, 400 students are enrolled. So, this is how you are supposed to write. First, this is the most basic thing. Listen to the classes carefully. Some of you are just doing the problems without listening. Yeah, just I don't know whether you are forwarding the video and then finally looking for the homework and then doing it. Please listen step by step, understand it. This is the best time to learn. Okay, right? And whenever you get a doubt, you can just rewind it. So go back and then watch the video again. Okay, so this is the best time for you to listen, understand also. So now you write the ratio. Students, teachers by teachers, students by students. So how to write the ratio now? 3 is to x is similar to 60 is to 400. Is 60 is to 400. This is the way you have to write. By mistake also you should not write as 3 by 60. Okay, so 3 is to x is as 60 is to 40. So therefore now we are doing it only by proportion method. So product of means is equal to product of extremes. So product of means we will take. So 60 into x is equal to product of extremes 3 into 400. 3 into 400. Now what is x is equal to transpose 60? 3 into 400 divided by 60. Since it is multiplication here, we are getting it as a division. So 0, 0 will cancel here. It is into. Therefore, you can do it like this. If it is plus, you have to find out the numerator first and then only you can divide with the denominator. Right? Okay. So therefore, now what do you have? 3 4s are 12, 12 and then 0, 120, 120 by 6. So this is 6 2s are 12 is equal to 20. So how many teachers? Therefore 20 teachers are required, are needed. 20 teachers are needed. See, because here itself you are in 8th standard, you can easily understand 3 teachers to 60 students means each teacher 20 students. Here 40 students, that means 20 teachers. 20 into 20, 400. So therefore 20 teachers are needed to teach 400 children. Is that clear, children? What is very important is how you are going to get this relationship is very important. Once you get this one, the rest all are whatever you know, whatever you have learnt and did in simplifying the equation and finding the value. Okay, so how are you writing this? Better you write it in a tabular form like this. So all similar quantities come under one column and all the other similar quantities should come under other column, like teachers under teachers, students under students. Okay, then afterwards teacher by teacher is as student by student. After this is proportion concept. We have to find out x value. We are not going to write the equivalent ratio of it. If that is the case, you will be writing only compound ratio. He is not asking you to write what is the compound ratio of it. He is asking you to find out value of x. Whenever some variable value has to be determined, you have to take as proportion, and then product of means is equal to product of extremes. Is that what you have to use? And based on that, we got the result to be 20 teachers. Okay, right. Now pause the video, take the screenshot, understand step by step, don't blindly copy. And then this one. So with this, I'll stop the class for today.